We mentioned Kai Greene earlier. Do you think there's a chance he's going to go in it?
I had this conversation earlier, and you got to realize that Mr. Olympia is not just a show you decide you want to compete in. This is a childhood dream for most of us.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that takes a lifelong body of work. If you know Shawn Rhoden's story, you'll know he took a 7-year hiatus when his dad died, and he became an alcoholic. But his dad's dying advice to him was, go back to doing what you love. Go back to being a bodybuilder. And Shawn remembered that, and he went back to being a bodybuilder, and he gave him purpose, and he gave him drive, and he remembered that this is something that I should do and something I can be. And it takes on a life of its own, and it's almost like the blood rushing through your body, like clockwork. You wake up to eat your breakfast and take your morning piss, and you do your gym, and you do it over and over, and you do it day in and day out, and your mind is constantly 2 steps ahead because you're counting down on the calendar to what you're trying to become. And then suddenly that contest comes, and you're on the stage, and you're prepared. You don't just flip that switch in 8 weeks because opportunity knocks. You flip that switch in 8 weeks and go, I'm going to go be the best bodybuilder in the world. That's a childhood dream for many people that takes years of preparation. And if you think that you can just jump up there and do it on a haphazard effort because opportunity knocks, you could be in for a very rude awakening. And we can use Kevin Levrone as an example. We can use Flex Wheeler as an example. We can use a lot of guys that have come back. The Incredible Hulk, who stood toe-to-toe with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 75 in South Africa, as an example of a 17-year layoff. He came back and he looked okay at 42 years old. But, it's still 17 years. You don't just wake up one day and decide to do this. And the person that, if there's anybody that can wake up and do it, because he still looks like he's putting in work. He looks like he's training. And the depth of the field is less. You don't have Phil Heath. You don't have Big Ramy. You don't have Shawn Rhoden. So the depth of the field is less. And if I'm on the sidelines and I'm looking, I might be tempted to think, okay, well, this is about conditioning. Let me up my cardio, drop my carbs, work on my posing. I look, I'm sizing these guys up. These are guys I can beat. Mentally in his mind, he might think that. But it doesn't always translate to standing on stage in trunks on the day while these guys have been training nonstop, religiously. And a guy like Hadi Chupin, a guy like Brandon Curry, even William Bonek can take a guy like Kai Greene out. Remember, Kai Greene was losing to Cedric McMillan at the Arnold Classic 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And Kai Greene came from behind to beat him in the posing round. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cedric McMillan, I don't believe was ever in the top 5 of the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah,
he
you're
may
right.
have won an Arnold Classic, but he's never been in the top 5. So Kai was losing the last time we saw him. He pulled out a lucky win over Cedric, and Cedric has never been in a promise fulfilled on that Olympia stage. He's got an Arnold Classic win. He's won the Lou Ferrigno Legacy. He won over in San Marino. I've seen, and he's won in Germany too. I know all these guys' careers. I was there in person when they were winning these shows. When you start stacking that up, you got to think William Bonek never took his foot off the gas. Brandon Curry couldn't bust a grape a few years back when it came to the Mr. Olympia. Now he's knocking on the door. Rolly Winkler, who would have thought he's going to be in the top 3 of Olympia? Come on. William Bonek's already been second. So these are not, while they may not be the names that we're familiar with, these are not guys that you can just get off the couch one day and up your cardio and reduce your carbs and think I'm going to come and pick up and it's going to be business as usual after a 4-year layoff. If he does, he would deserve it. I think we'd all bow down to Kai Greene. But I don't like to live in the past because the past has never been kind to those guys when it actually tries to materialize. From the great Gary Stridham, the White Rhino, to Kevin Levrone, to even Muhammad, the Egyptian, came back to the Iron Man, and we were all excited. And it just didn't pan out for him. He was just another body on the stage. Kai Greene looks phenomenal by himself in his Instagram photos, and so do I, by the way.
Yeah.
That ain't the Mr. Olympia stage, so I'm not 100% convinced. And if anybody could do it, it would be someone like Kai. But he's got so many things going on that I just don't think that he'd have to go out to Kuwait and train with the oxygen crew.
Yeah.
The camel crew.
And he's only got 8 weeks.
And he's got a million things going on. Listen, Kai doesn't need it. But if I were Kai, I would say, this is my shot. This is my opportunity. That door is wide open. I'm going to kick that thing in. I'm going to let everybody know I'm signing that contract and I'm committing. And he's one of the few that I think could probably pull it all together. But there's so much noise in his head with all the other things going on. And he didn't expect that Shawn wasn't going to be in it. He didn't expect that Big Ramy might not be in it. So all of those factors, these are happening in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And he may be booked for the rest of the year already. I am. I'm going to Switzerland. I'm going to Chile. I'm going to Iraq. I'm all over the place.
Right.
And so trying to just jump back in. And by the way, it would be a comeback for Kai Greene because he's been missing for 4 years from that stage.
Wow, it's been 4 years already.
It'd be a short comeback, but it would be a comeback nonetheless. And we've got to assume that he's healthy. We also got to assume that he can train Olympia style, which when he got his 3 first runner-ups to Phil Heath, each year was like consecutive. He didn't take a year off.
Yeah,
he was grinding every year to go up against Phil Heath, who got 7, and Phil never took his foot off the gas. In this scenario, he hasn't been grinding for the past 3 years. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Rocky, but when Rocky actually won the heavyweight title, he started sleeping on silk sheets and bought the mansion and got the Ferrari and got the kids and got the dog and all that. And the next thing you know, Mickey was going nuts. He's like, dude, you're civilized. What the hell's going on? You're about to fight this wrecking machine, man. What the hell's wrong with you, right? And then he flipped the script when he had to fight Drago. He went out there, he's running in the hills, he's running in the snow, he's doing all that. He got back to his serious business, right? I don't know that Kai Greene has that when you get civilized. So
you're right. I think a lot of people are looking at him like, well, he's 300 pounds. He could just step in and win it anytime he wants. He's just got to diet a little bit. But you're right. I mean, when he was taking second, although he worked consecutive, he was training all year. Bodybuilding was his life. And it's already been, like you said, 4 years since he's done it. So it's, you can't discount that time.
He didn't have 5 million followers on Instagram. He wasn't in high demand. And he didn't have other options, shooting little movies and doing his Comic-Con stuff. He looks like he's living the life of his dream right now. And I think the Olympia would make all of that stop.
Yeah.
And God forbid he came in and he got 3rd or 4th place. I mean, now the shine is washed off and suddenly he's humanized and maybe it hurts his popularity. But I tell you what, it'd be a hell of a ride if I heard tomorrow that he signed the contract and Dan Solomon's showing it and waving it around. I guarantee all the other guys would take their training to another level, and I guarantee you that Kai Greene would be the man to beat, but now it would be up to him to make that a reality, and that's where injury can loom right over your shoulder because you're trying to do too much in too short of a time. Mm-hmm. We all know the gravity of the Mr. Olympia, and that thing is super huge regarding the responsibility. I don't know that I would want that at this stage. Kai Greene is 44 years old, too.
Bodybuilding Heroes and Legends Volume 1 by John Hansen is the book that celebrates the golden age of bodybuilding. This was the era in which legends such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sergio Oliva, Frank Zane, Robbie Robinson, Cal Skalak, and Mike Menser battled it out on stage for the biggest titles in bodybuilding. Read about some of the most exciting competitions that took place in the 1970s, including the Oliva-Schwarzenegger battles, Zane's first Olympia victory, and Skalak's controversial Mr. Olympia appearance, and much more. Filled with inspiring images of some of the greatest bodybuilders in the history of the sport, Bodybuilding Heroes and Legends Volume 1 is now available on Amazon.com or email John directly at naturalolympia@gmail.com.